They say that New Orleans was once the most terrifying place on earth. The year was 1918, and the Spanish flu had just hit the Big Easy. Back then, this was a solidly working-class area, mostly populated by poor Southern Europeans who had recently immigrated to the U.S. 5 Italian-American grocers were found dead in their homes, seemingly chosen at random. Each had been hit over the head with an axe while asleep and robbed of their life savings. In December 1918, another letter arrived, this one addressed to the police department. Amate remembers seeing the letter posted on the wall of a house. People started talking about it, and then they began making plans to protect themselves. As a precaution, many families bought axes of their own, hung them over their doors, and took turns watching their neighbors' houses at night. If you visit New Orleans, you can even take a tour to see all the places he terrorized. So next time you hear the mournful strains of a jazz funeral, or see a shadowy figure dancing at Preservation Hall, remember, it might not be a ghost. It could be the Axeman of New Orleans, and he may be looking for someone to kill.
Ow.
Others stayed up drinking and playing jazz music. One survivor recalled hearing piano music coming from a neighbor's house, and thinking, "Thank God I'm not going to get killed tonight." Another remembered looking out her window and seeing an entire parade of musicians making their way down the street. The Axeman taunted them directly, boasting about how he'd evaded capture for so long. But when he looked inside, he saw an entire family gathered together, singing and playing music. Perhaps the Axeman was having a change of heart, or maybe he was just bored. In any case, he let them live and moved on. Then he dropped a massive hint about his next target, stating that he planned to kill someone on Christmas night at a house on the corner of Dauphine and 13th Streets. There are dozens of theories, but no hard evidence. It's possible the whole thing was a hoax perpetrated by a madman who wanted to scare the public and the cops. Others believe it was actually a mob of Italian-American gangsters who sought revenge for the heavy-handed policing of their communities. But there's no way to know for sure. But here's the kicker. The Axeman claimed that he would only strike those who were not playing jazz music at the time. The rest of the letter was more of the same, boasting, threatening, and signing off with that strange flourish. The police believed they had caught the killer when they arrested a petty criminal named George Ramo. He fit the description given by witnesses and had a history of burglary. Plus, they found the murder weapon in his house. Unfortunately for Ramo, the evidence against him was circumstantial, and he soon walked free. That was nearly 100 years ago. And to this day, nobody knows for sure if he was the real killer. They were living in the shadow of the old brick warehouses, where voodoo priestess Marie Laveau was rumored to have once sold her mystical wares. See, after the third murder, the press began receiving letters postmarked from various locations around the country. All were written on a typewriter and signed with the same flourish at the end. This one reads, "I will now tell you what I am going to do. On Sunday, October 26, 1918, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I am going to kill again. This time I will kill in St. Roch's Parish. It will be a woman about 40 years of age, the wife of a grocer.
Ow.
I will go to their house and kill her, and the children, and the old man too, if he interferes.
Ow.
There'll be a fair chance for the officers to capture me. Yours truly, the Axeman." Similar letters followed each murder, sometimes giving the victim's name, and sometimes even describing exactly how they would die. The Axeman seemed to delight in scaring the wits out of the city. It was the kind of place where you could get a beer and a sandwich at the corner store, dance to the hottest jazz bands in the world, and gamble your money away in illegal casinos all before sundown. It was also the kind of place where an axe murderer could prowl the streets for 3 years without ever getting caught. Our story begins here in the Italian neighborhood of the city. Between 1918 and 1919, a series of brutal murders shook the community. If these murders were especially heinous, they were also especially weird. But then came the most bizarre missive of all. Many people heard about the letter, including a Mr. Sidney, who was hanging out in New Orleans after being kicked out of the army for falling asleep on the job. When the Axeman did strike again, he chose a house on the corner of Marais and 13th Streets. To this day, we don't know who the Axeman was, if he was part of a gang, or why he stopped killing after 1919. Today, the story of the Axeman lives on in books, TV shows, and movies,